My name is James. This is what happened to my family. I'm recording this because I need someone to know the truth before I forget it. And I'm terrified I'm going to forget it. Everything started with a sound, not a scream. Not something dramatic. It was worse than that. It was ordinary. It was the sound of my daughter's door closing. That's it. That's what started everything. Let me back up. My name is James Patterson. I'm 42 years old. I live in a house I bought 15 years ago with my wife, Sarah. We have 2 kids. Emma is 17. Michael is 14. We're the kind of family that has dinner together most nights. We joke around. Emma complains about homework. Michael's obsessed with gaming. Sarah and I are always trying to get them off their phones. We're normal. We were normal. The sound happened on a Tuesday night. I was downstairs watching the news. Sarah was in bed reading. Emma was in her room doing homework, or pretending to do homework, which is the same thing. Michael was asleep. I heard it clearly. Emma's bedroom door closing. Not slamming, just closing. A soft click. I didn't think anything of it. She probably was going to the bathroom. Then I heard it again. 5 minutes later. The same sound. Click. Then. Again. Click. Every 5 minutes. Absolutely regular. Her door opening and closing. I figured she was getting up to use the bathroom, or maybe pacing while she was on the phone. Kids do that. I didn't think about it. But then Sarah came downstairs. She asked if I'd heard Emma leaving the house. I said no, of course not. Sarah said Emma was asleep in her bed, and her door had been opening and closing for the past 20 minutes. We both went upstairs. We opened Emma's door quietly. She was asleep. Definitely asleep. In her pajamas, under her blankets, breathing steadily. Nothing unusual except for the fact that her door was in motion. It was slowly closing. Completely. On its own. As we watched, it eased to a close and clicked. 5 minutes later, it opened. Not slowly. It opened all the way, and then closed again. Clicked at Sarah and I looked at each other. We didn't say anything. I closed the door. We stood there and waited. 5 minutes later, it opened and closed again. I checked the hinges. They were fine. I looked at the frame. No warping, no problem with the door itself. The house settles, sometimes old houses do, but this was different. This was rhythmic. This was intentional. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in the hallway outside Emma's room and timed the door. 5 minutes. Every single time. 4 hours. The door opened and closed like clockwork. At 6 in the morning. It stopped. Sarah and I didn't talk about it much the next day. We convinced ourselves there was a logical explanation. Maybe the door was unbalanced. Maybe there was a draft. Maybe it was just a coincidence that felt worse than it actually was. But then it started. Happening in other rooms. Michael's door did it the next night. The same rhythm. 5 minutes. Open and close. I stayed up with him that night because he was frightened. He was 14 and trying to be brave, but I could tell he was terrified. I told him it was probably the house settling. Probably nothing to worry about. He asked me if I believed that. I didn't answer him. The next night, both their doors were doing it simultaneously. Emma's and Michael's, opening and closing at exactly the same time, like they were connected to the same mechanism. Sarah found me in the hallway at 3 in the morning, just standing there, watching. "It's getting worse," she said. "It's probably nothing," I lied. "It's not nothing. You know it's not nothing." I did know. I could feel it in my gut. Something was wrong with our house. Something fundamental. And it was escalating the following morning. The door stopped. Completely. They didn't do it anymore. Not that night. Not the next night. Not the night after that. A full week passed, and they were normal. I was relieved. I figured it was over. Whatever it was, whatever was causing it, it had run its course. Then the sounds started in the attic. Footsteps, heavy, slow footsteps, dragging across the attic floor above our heads. It happened at night, always around 2 or 3 in the morning. The footsteps would start at one end of the house and drag across to the other side, slowly, taking forever. Then silence for a few hours, and they'd do it again. I went up into the attic. I brought a flashlight and a baseball bat because I didn't know what else to do. The attic was empty. Completely empty. Dusty, insulated, no signs of anyone or anything. Living up there. No rats, no animals, no intruders. Just an empty attic and the sound of dragging footsteps that seemed to come from everywhere. And nowhere. Michael started having nightmares. Bad ones. He'd wake up screaming about someone being in his room. I'd go in and calm him down and there would be nothing there. But he was terrified. Genuinely terrified. Emma started keeping her door locked and wouldn't go into the basement. Sarah stopped sleeping. I could hear her in our room every night, lying awake, listening. And then something worse happened. One morning, Sarah found a handprint on the inside of our bathroom window. Just a single handprint, small, child-sized. The kind of handprint I'd have made. But Michael swore he hadn't been near the window. And the weird part, the thing that made my skin crawl, was that the handprint was on the inside of the glass. On the inside, like something had pressed its hand against the window from inside the bathroom. It's probably from before, I said. From months ago. We just didn't notice it. But I could see Sarah didn't believe me. And I didn't believe me either. That night, we heard a voice. It came from Emma's room. A voice that sounded exactly like Emma, but it was wrong. It was saying her name over and over again. Emma. 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 But it didn't sound like Emma. It sounded hollow. Like a recording of her voice played through broken speakers. I ran into her room. Emma was asleep. But the voice kept coming from inside the walls. Emma. 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 Got the whole family into our bedroom and locked the door. We sat there in the dark, listening to that voice calling Emma's name from inside our house. Sarah was crying. Michael was shaking. Emma was white-faced. And silent. I was trying to think of something rational to say, something that would make sense of this, but nothing made sense anymore. We need to call someone, Sarah said. Who? I asked. Who do you call for something like this? We called a priest. Father Matthews came to the house the next day. He was older, sympathetic, but skeptical. He walked through the house and blessed the rooms. He said some prayers. Nothing happened while he was there. The house was completely normal. He told us that old houses settle, that sometimes our minds play tricks on us when we're stressed. He gave us his number and told us to call if things got worse. They got worse. The voice started coming from everywhere. Not just Emma's name anymore. It started saying other things. Horrible things. Things that made the children cry. And then it started sounding like different voices. It sounded like Sarah. It sounded like me. It sounded like versions of my children saying things they would never say. Michael stopped going to school. Emma started having panic attacks. Sarah wasn't eating. I was drinking whiskey at night trying to sleep. We called paranormal investigators. They set up cameras and recording equipment throughout the house. They spent 3 nights with us. The house was completely normal while they were there. No sounds, no moving doors, no voices. They thought we were crazy. I could see it in their eyes. The moment they left, it started again, worse than before. The footsteps in the attic got louder. The voice got more aggressive. Things started moving on their own. Pictures falling off walls, doors slamming, the TV turning on and off by itself, and the handprints started appearing everywhere. On windows, on mirrors, on the walls. Child-sized handprints. Dozens of them. Appearing overnight on surfaces we'd just wiped clean. I started doing research. I looked up the history of the house. I found old records, newspaper articles. In 1987, a child had gone missing from this house. A boy named Thomas. He was 5 years old. He'd disappeared from his bedroom one night and was never found. They suspected the parents. There was a trial. The father was convicted based on circumstantial evidence, but before he could be sentenced, he killed himself in his cell. The mother was released. The house changed hands multiple times after that. Nobody stayed long. People reported strange things, noises, feelings of being watched. One family lasted 2 months. Another lasted a week. I realized we'd been living in a house where a child died, or where a child was taken, and something was still there. Something was still in this house with us. I tried to get my family out. I told Sarah we had to leave, that we'd sell the house for nothing, that we had to get out immediately. But Sarah wouldn't leave. She said if we left, if we ran away, it would follow us. She said the only way to stop it was to understand it, to face it. I should have overruled her. I should have packed the kids and left that night. Instead, I agreed with her. We started leaving offerings, food, water, toys, things that a child might want. We left them in the corner of Michael's room, which had become the epicenter of the activity. For one night, the house was quiet. We thought we'd figured it out. We thought we'd appeased whatever was haunting us. Then Emma came to us crying. She said she'd been in her room, and something had touched her. She said she felt hands on her cold hands, and she heard the voice whispering in her ear. She said it knew her name. It said it knew all our names. Sarah called an exorcist, a real one, not a priest, an actual exorcist. He was a young man named Father Vincent. He came to the house, and he walked through every room, and he said he could feel something. He said the spiritual oppression in the house was significant. He said he could perform a rite of exorcism, but he warned us that sometimes, when you try to expel a spirit, it fights back. We told him to do it anyway. The exorcism was 3 nights long. It was terrifying. Father Vincent was chanting in Latin, throwing holy water, making the sign of the cross, and the house got angry. The lights shattered. All of them, at the same time. Windows cracked. The walls seemed to shake. And we heard the voices screaming, not human screams. Primal, anguished, furious. Michael tried to run. He said something was grabbing him. I pinned him to the floor and held him while he screamed that something was holding his legs. But there was nothing there. Nothing I could see. On the 3rd night, Father Vincent collapsed. He was having a seizure. His eyes rolled back, and he started speaking in a voice that wasn't his own. A child's voice, high and hollow, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. We called an ambulance. They took him away. He had a stroke. He's still in the hospital. He said he'll recover, but he is not the same. He doesn't remember the exorcism. He doesn't remember our house. He just lies there and stares at the wall and sometimes whispers things in that hollow child's voice. After the exorcism, the activity stopped completely. For 2 weeks, the house was silent. I felt like we'd won. I felt like the exorcism had worked. That Father Vincent had driven whatever was in the house out, and even though he'd paid a terrible price, at least my family was safe. Then I found something. I was in the basement, looking for the water shut-off valve because we had a small leak. I was moving boxers and I found something wedged behind a support beam. It was a skeleton. A small skeleton. The skeleton of a child. The bones were old, yellowed. Some of them were broken, like the body had been violently dismembered. This was Thomas, the child who had gone missing in 1987. His body had been in this house the entire time. For 35 years, his body had been hidden in our basement. I called the police. They came and they documented everything, and they took the bones away for DNA testing. The police captain told me that my house had been the scene of a crime, but that the case was closed because all the people involved were dead. Thomas was never coming back, but something else was here instead. Because here's the thing, I've only just figured out. Here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. Thomas disappeared in 1987. He was 5 years old. Emma is 17 years old now. She was born in 2007. That's exactly 20 years later. Michael is 14. He was born in 2010. I don't want to think about what this means. I don't want to think about the connections, but I can't stop thinking about them. The handprints on the windows, the voice calling Emma's name, the hands trying to grab Michael, and the offerings, the toys, the things we left in Michael's room. Because we thought a child wanted them. I think something was collecting them. I think something that lost everything wants what I have. Sarah won't talk about it. When I try to bring it up, she just shakes her head and tells me to stop. But I can see it in her eyes. She knows. She knows what I'm thinking, and she knows that I know. Emma has started sleepwalking. Last night, I found her standing in Michael's room at 3 a.m, just standing there in the dark, perfectly still. Michael has stopped talking to anyone. He just sits in his room with headphones on, staring at nothing, and Sarah has started saying she feels cold. All the time, even in warm rooms, she's shaking with cold. The real estate agent keeps calling about selling the house. I haven't answered. I don't know how to tell her that there's a child's body buried in the basement, that our house is a crime scene, that nobody is going to buy this place. I don't know how to tell her that I'm terrified to leave, because I think if we leave, something is going to take one of my children with it. I think that's what it wants. I think that's what it's been trying to do since we moved in. It lost Thomas, and now it wants one of ours. We're still in the house. Sarah, me, Emma, Michael, trapped, and some nights, when I'm lying in bed trying to sleep, I hear the voice in the hallway, not calling a name, just breathing. Heavy, deliberate breathing. Like something is standing right outside our door, waiting, patient, hungry. And the worst part is that I'm not sure that breathing is coming from outside the door. I'm not sure that it's not coming from inside my own chest. I'm not sure that I'm still entirely myself anymore. I'm recording this because I need someone to understand. I need someone to know what happened here. Because I think I'm starting to understand something terrible. I think the exorcism didn't work. Okay, I think it did the opposite. I think it opened a door instead of closing one, and I think something came through that door, Dot, and I think it's still here, and I think it's getting stronger every day. I feel less like myself and more like something else. Every night, the breathing outside the door gets louder, and I'm starting to wonder if there's still time to save my family, or if I'm the thing they need to be saved from. I don't know anymore. I don't know anything anymore except fear, and I'm afraid that soon I won't remember that either.